Welcome friends to Farm Fresh Designs 59. In today's video, I'm going to show you several thrifted projects and just a couple Dollar Tree items that you can use in your spring or Easter decor. So let's get started. Now this first item is one of those big eggs that you get from the Dollar Tree. And I used a lot of that slick stick from Dixie Belle to cover it. And then I painted it with chiffon cream. And I glued it together, or the top and the bottom. So I then made a mold from Doss Air Dry Clay from the IOD Frames mold. And I put that on the front. And after it sets up just a little bit, if you've watched my videos before, you know that I like to go ahead and paint them because that helps so it doesn't crack. Then I wanted to give some texture to it. So this is gesso and it's the heavy kind. And I'm just using like a little spatula to put it on. And I'm just putting it kind of here and there. But I need some texture on it because what I do at the end, if I did it without this texture, I think I might melt the plastic on this egg. So I just go all around the bottom and the top and even at the back. So by now, that mold has had time to set up and it's dry. And then I use a print that I got off of Etsy and it's called My Porch Prints. And the name of the actual item that I bought is called Sepia and Ivory Journal Kit. And it's just some little white roses. And once I decide what I'm going to put on there, then I just run my fingers around the edges just to try to get that part where I need it to be, and then I tear it off. And I printed these on copy paper. And then I just used my Pen Art Decoupage varnish and glue to put it all on. And I start up at the top and I work my way down. Now, next I'm using Rust-Oleum Serenity Blue. And I actually had run out of it. And I usually get it at Walmart, but my Walmart doesn't carry it anymore, so I actually had to order it online. But I just think it's just the perfect like duck egg blue for the spring. And it's a really good bargain if you buy it from Walmart in the quart. Now, the mold that I'm using now is the it's the Laurel mold. And I'm going to be putting the little Laurel stem. Is going to be on either side of this egg. And when I put that clay in, I just push it down with my thumb and then I go back over it with an old credit card to smooth off the back of it. And then I'm going to put it on with Tite Bond Thick and Quick. And then I just gently press around the edges, like really gently, just to kind of push it down. And then I need to go ahead and put the other side on. So I just a little bit of painter's tape to put that first one down so it kind of sets up. And then I've just got to get the little edges from it. Now the next piece comes from the IOD Olive Crest because I need to put something up at the top, but I really don't want to use resin. I decided that I was going to make a double-sided mold with air dry clay. And it's just a little piece up at the top. And then I actually cut off the bottom of it so it's flat. And then I glue those two together. And then I put it on with Tite Bond Thick and Quick later on. And I'm not really sure if it's even going to work, but it ended up working fine. And so I've gotten that little trim painted. And now I'm going to paint that top of it. And then I put it up at the top and I'll let it sit overnight because I was afraid that it wouldn't last. Now this is why I needed to put the texture on it. I wanted something extra to put some design on it. So I decided that I would take my hot glue gun, and it's the one that gets really hot, and I just made some little swirly patterns all over it. Now, the back of this egg is flat, so I did not put it on that flat part because at the time I really wasn't sure if it was going to stand up or not. And then that little space between the frame and that the mold, I used that same swirly pattern, but just smaller to put some design in between the frame and the trim. And I love the way it turned it out. And now I'm just going back with the Rust-Oleum Serenity Blue just to kind of paint it because it dries clear. And then I'm going to do something after that. So once it's dry, I take my Rust-Oleum Chiffon Cream and I gently dry brush over those raised areas. And initially, I was only going to let it be on the raised areas, but I liked putting just a little bit extra in between, but it was super light and it just brought out the detail. Now, if I had it to do over again, I would put a mold on the back because it was top heavy and it would have not stood on its own. And so I'm going to show you what I do to make it stand up. Now this time I am using resin, and this is the Redesign with Prima mold, and it's called Lace 2. And I use the Amazing Casting resin, which has two parts. Part A is clear, and part B is kind of yellow, and then you mix them together, and then once it kind of comes out just a little bit clear, then it's ready to pour. And then I'm not really sure exactly how it's going to work, so I pour one, and then I decided that I was going to try one more just in case that one didn't work. And this is a trick that I learned from my friend Tess. But she told me that, if you only want part of a mold, then you just take your hot glue gun and create a barrier on that mold. And then that way the resin, will not go over that mold or over that hot glue. And then I go back and forth several times so it's raised up. Now, if you've not used the resin, it is super important that you get exactly the same amount poured in, because if you don't, then it's not going to set up really well. And so I wait until it turns a little bit clear, and then I'm going to pour it in that mold, and it's going to stop where that hot glue is. Now, on that first mold, it actually took more resin than what I thought it would, so I had a little bit of resin left, so I went back and finished out that other mold. Now, this was just something I was going to try, and I wasn't even sure if it was going to work or not. So it sets up in about 10 minutes, and then you pull it out. And if you go ahead and pull it out then it can be pretty flexible. But if you wait just a little while, it's going to set up, and then it's not going to be flexible unless you heat it up. So I just kind of twist it around because I want to make like a little circle. And then on that second one, I just pull the hot glue off, and then I've got that little even surface. And I do the two edges with Tite Bond Thick and Quick. And these are just some little clamps that you can get at the Dollar Tree. And I have some bigger ones and I have some smaller ones. And then on both of them, I just put some Tite Bond glue and kind of set it together. And then I let it sit up overnight. And I was so excited because it did work. And then I'm going back with Rust-Oleum Chiffon Cream, and I'm going to paint both of them on the inside and on the outside, because I want to show you what I do with them at the end. So I'm super excited, and I hope you try this. And then on the second one, I decided that I would put a little bit of gold gilding wax on it. And look, it has a little gosh, what would you call that? I'm not really sure. It's just something that it rests in. And I love the way it turned out. And look at that hot glue. And I just really made like a little swirly pattern. And that was it. And then I think I put like a couple little polka dots on it. But I love the way this turned out. And on that little mold up at the top, I ended up putting a little bit of hot glue on it just to make sure, because later on I was afraid that it might move around. And then this is the second one that I made with the gold gilding wax. So what do you think? This is just a plain old Dollar Tree egg, and I just really spiced it up with some molds and hot glue, and then made like a little frame to put it in. And I'm so excited that it turned out so well. And then also, I forgot to show you down at the bottom, I put that same trim. So if you're liking the video so far, make sure to give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel and become part of our family. Okay, so the next piece is just a thrifted item. It's a little frame, and I think it was kind of like a pretend brass frame, but it was old and it just was kind of nasty, and so I painted it with Rust-Oleum Chiffon Cream. Now, the molds that I'm going to make to kind of dress it up, because it's pretty plain, is a redesign with Prima mold, and it's called Small Leaves. And there's just two different pieces that I make. There's one that kind of curves around up at the top, and then on the sides, that's a different one, and it's more straight. And it just adds a little bit to this frame so that it's not so plain. And then I just get them all situated, and then I put them on with Titebond Thick and Quick. Now the pink that I'm painting is actually Dixie Belle Tea Rose, and I just paint the front and kind of inside the edges, and I go on and paint those molds as well. Once it dries, then I use my Dixie Belle Clear Wax, and then once I let it sit for a little while, then I use Dixie Belle White Wax. And then that's just a little piece of decoupage paper that I got from Decoupage Central. And that's all there is to it. It's just a sweet little picture that I put the bunny in. But this is something you could do for any frame that you've got. That's just plain. Add a few molds to it, and you just turn it into just a work of art. Now this next thrifted item is something that I actually redid a good while back. And so I took the little pieces of wood that was on it and I pulled those off because I wanted to make it spring. And so this piece of rice paper comes from AB Designs, and I also get that from Decoupage Central. And then I've painted it with Rust-Oleum Chiffon Cream. And then this stamp that I'm using, I bought it off of Amazon, and it's just some different scripts. Now, that piece of rice paper, because I'm going to be putting it onto something that is not completely white, then I paint it with the Rust-Oleum Chiffon Cream on the back, and it dries really quick. And then that way, it ensures that that print on that stamp doesn't kind of bleed through the rice paper and show up. And then I just use Pen Art Decoupage Varnish and Glue to put it on. And it's just a little vase with some pretty flowers in it. And then I just put it all down and with the Pen Art Decoupage Varnish and Glue. And then I glue it onto this little wood tote with Titebond Thick and Quick. Now, I am bad to kind of eyeball something, but on this one in particular, I wanted to make sure that it was in the right spot and there was the same amount on both sides. Now, these are some Easter eggs that, don't tell my grandchildren, but I took them out of their stash. We've got a big basket of Easter eggs, and they love to play Easter egg hunting, even in the wintertime. They're so funny. They love to hunt Easter eggs, and it's just a matter of putting them all different places, and so I don't ever get rid of them. And so I took some of their Easter eggs, and I have not told them, but I only take 6 of them. And then I actually spray painted them with white first, and then I came back and painted them with chiffon cream. Now, this mold that I'm putting around the different parts, I actually used several molds. On the front of 2 of the molds, I used the Cameo mold. One is the actual Cameo face, and one is the roses. And then on another one, I used the IOD Lock and Key. And then on another one, I use a piece from the IOD Classic Elements. Now, I've only put that on the front of these eggs, and then I need to kind of finish it off so it doesn't just look like a plain old mold on just a plastic egg. So this is an IOD mold. It's a redesign with Prima mold, and it's called Garland and Detail. And it takes more than one piece to actually go around the egg. And I just put that on and glue it on with Titebond Thick and Quick. And then that first mold has already dried, and then that way I'm able to kind of lay it down without messing up the mold that's on the front. And then I just let all of that set up as well. And then I do that on all 6 eggs. And in the reveal in just a minute, you'll notice that I only used 5 eggs because when you're decorating, it actually is more pleasing to the eye to use an odd number. But I used that same mold to go around all of the different eggs that I did. Now, I'm going to be putting color on them later, but I like to just start out with the Rust-Oleum Chiffon Cream. Just because it makes it a little bit simpler, and I was afraid that if I started out painting them in color and I didn't like it, it was going to be too hard to, to cover up. And so with 2 of them, I use the Dixie Belle Tea Rose. And with another 2, I use the Dixie Belle Rebel Yellow. And then with the last 2, I used Dixie Belle Mint Julep. And then once all of that had set up, then I put clear wax on it. And then I went back and put white wax on them just to finish it off. And I love the way they finished off. And so when my grandkids come to my house and they see that, I'm wondering if they're going to figure out that Grammy got into their stash of Easter eggs. And then those little cups, I think you can get those anywhere, and it's just like little condiment cups. So here's the final project. Here's my little tote that's got that beautiful rice paper on it. And then look at all my little eggs. I just think they're so sweet. So what do you think? They were super easy to make, and it was a lot of work for just a little plastic egg, but I was really pleased with how they turned out. So if you don't have grandchildren at your house, but you just like those little eggs, it could go into any, even just a little basket. And I love the way they turned out. Now, my last project is I'm going to be using a napkin, and this is Paisley. And this is a napkin that I've used before in the past. And if you've watched my channel, you know that I love Paisley as a design. And when you get a napkin, if it's 2 or 3 ply, I just take a little bit of painter's tape and touch the edge on the front and on the back, and it separates those plies. And then I'm just putting it down with Pent Art Decoupage varnish and glue. And I do just a little bit at a time, and then I work my way all the way down. And then I also use a little piece of cellophane to push it down, and that helps get rid of the wrinkles. And I actually bought this rabbit at Walmart in the craft section. I was so surprised. They only had one, so I made sure I got it. And then once it sets up and it's dry, then I go around it with my little finger sander to get those extra parts off. And then I wanted to, add a little bit more to it. So this is my Redesign with Prima stencil. And it's called Regal. And then I can't pronounce the other part of the word, so I'll link it in the description box below. And then I just use Redesign with Prima paint, like paste. And then it's called Vintage Linen, I believe. And then I put it on, and it goes on really thick. So I spread it on, and I make sure that stencil doesn't move. And the reason I have painter's tape on it is because I want to keep that stencil from going too high up on the rabbit. And then you just pull it straight up. And it's just something a little extra simple. And then these are just some different laces that I just wrap around my finger. And then I tie them up. And then I use eyelash ribbon and some pinks and some creams. And I just tie it up into a little bow. And then I'm going to put that with hot glue up at the neck of the bunny. And then I use like a little white button that I had to put in the center of it to just finish off that bow. Now this is an egg, and I can't remember where I got these. I don't think I got it at Hobby Lobby. I think I might have gotten them at Michael's, but I'm not positive. And I painted it with Rust-Oleum Chiffon Cream, and this is just a transfer by Redesign with Prima. And it is appropriately named Paisley Lover. And I love it. I love the colors. I love pink and green. And then you just peel off the back of it. And by the way, when you paint it, you need to make sure you put a clear sealer on it. And make sure that's dry before you put the transfer on. Because if you don't, well, I learned from experience that it will pull the paint off. So it's better to just use a little bit of time to put a clear sealer on it, whichever one is your favorite kind. And then I just use my little transfer stick and just start up at the top and pull that plastic up just a little bit as I go. And then I go all the way down to the bottom. And that's all I do with that one. And I just think it turned out so pretty. And then I just take that plastic sheet that came off of it and I just rub over it, and it's called burnishing. And here's my rabbit and my egg. And I just think they're so pretty. And I love that stencil down at the bottom. It adds just a little bit of extra touch. Now, I know that Paisley is pretty busy, but I think it balances out with that egg that just has the paisley transfer on it. And I got my husband to cut out that egg out of some other wood, so in case I want to make some more later, then I'll have that extra, egg, so I don't have to go back and buy any more. And then this is, just the paisley egg sitting in front of the rabbit, whichever way. So friends, we are at the end of the video today. I hope I inspired you, and I hope you enjoyed the video. And in the comments below, make sure and tell me which one was your favorite. It's really hard to choose, but I think I'm going to have to go with the big egg. I love the way that it turned out. And then after that, I can't tell you which one's my favorite. And I apologize for my kind of craggy voice today. I spent the last 2 days outside a lot. And I was cleaning, and I got into some dust, and then with the wind blowing and the pollen, and I think it's just a mixture of the dust and the pollen, and I stayed up late last night coughing all night long. So I apologize for my voice, but I wanted to go ahead and do this voiceover. So if you enjoyed the video today, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe, and thank you for all your support, and I will see you in my next video. Have a great day.